بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن سمرة رضي الله عنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في الظهر بالليل إذا يغشى، وفي رواية بسبح اسم ربك الأعلى، وفي العصر نحو ذلك، وفي الصبح أطول من ذلك. رواه Muslim. Narrated from Jabir ibn Samara radiallahu anhu, he said Nabi Akram used to recite in Zohar what وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى, and in one riwayat وَتْسَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى, and in the Asr also similar to that. And in Fajr used to be longer than that. Right. So these hadiths here doesn't now say that did he read وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى in the first rakat, or in both rakats, or did he divide وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى in between the first and the second rakat? So these are two possibilities. Either he read it in both rakats, whole surat وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى in the first and second, or he read half in the first and half in the second. So this is called taqsim and tab'il, right? So both are ghayr awla. In other words, it's better not to recite like it. Although it is permissible, but because tab'il, making reciting a portion, all right? Okay, so that taqsim tab'i, so that will be reciting a portion, right? Dividing it. And the other one is takrar, repeating وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى in both rakats. So both of these are not established from Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Therefore, the ulama have said that to read in one rakat a whole surah, even though the surah is small, is better than reading a portion of another surah, even though that is a long surah. Understood it? To read in one rakat a whole surah, even though that surah is small, is better than reading a portion of another surah, even though that surah is long. All right? But they say, yes, however, Taraweeh is excluded from this ruling, because in Taraweeh, to make khatam of the Quran is better. So then there you have to read now whatever is easy, right? وعن جبير بن مطعم رضي الله قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في المغرب بالتور متفق عليه. Narrated from Jubair ibn Mut'im رضي الله عنه said I heard Nabi Akram reciting in Maghrib what Surah Tur, right? What Tur, so that's in the 27th para, right? And then when al-Fadl bint al-Haris قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في المغرب بالمرسلات عرفا متفق عليه. Narrated from Fadl bint al-Haris, I heard Nabi Akram reciting in Maghrib Salat والمرسلات عرفا. So that's in the 29th para, end of 29th para. So this hadiths here, all these hadiths shows here that no surah has been made specific to any particular salah or any particular rakat in such a way that you can't recite another surah in that particular rakat. But nevertheless, we have the fuqaha have mentioned that it is sunnah to recite in Fajr and Zohar Tiwali Mufassal, and Asr and Isha Awsati Mufassal, and Maghrib Kisari Mufassal. And thus they took from Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu's letter to Abu Musa Ash'ari, who was the governor of Kufa at that time, and he told him that this is how you will do your kirat. And in this, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu would have obviously now heard it from Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's why you would have now advised him to do it like it. In other words, recite these surahs, right? So these are the sunnah surahs to recite in these particular salahs, right? But then obviously now then they say there's two sunnahs here. One is to recite in Fajr and Zohar. These, take for example Tiwali Mufassal. To recite Tiwali Mufassal in Fajr and Zohar, that is sunnah, right? Then the other sunnah is, or what is also permissible, and will also one sunnah will be fulfilled there, is that if you recite out of Tiwali Mufassal, but you recite the same amount that you would recite in Tiwali Mufassal, then that would also be also permissible and also fulfilling one sunnah, in the sense that you read, the amount that one would recite in Tiwa Ali Mufassal. Right. وعن جابر رضي الله قال كان معاذ بن جبل يصلي مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم يأتي فيؤم قومه فصلى ليلة مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم العشاء ثم أتى قومه فأمهم فافتتح بسورة البقرة فانحرف رجل فسلم ثم صلى وحده وانصرف فقولوا له نافقت يا فلان قال لا والله ولا آتين رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فلا أخبرنه فأتى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنا أصحاب نواضح نعمل بالنهار وإن معاذا صلى معك العشاء ثم أتى فافتتح بسورة البقرة فأقبل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على معاذ وقال يا معاذ أفتان يقول أفتان م? أفتان أنت اقرأ والشمس وضحاها والليل إذا يغشى وسبح اسم ربك الأعلى متفق عليه. Now, from Jabir Rajul said Muaz ibn Jabal used to recite what Nabi Karim said. Then he would come and then he would lead his people and he would recite uh, at night with Nabi Karim some Isha. Then he would come to his people and he would lead them. Then he would start with Surah. Then he started with Surah Baqarah. So a man turned away and he made salam and he recited alone and he turned away. Then they said to him, "Have you become a munafiq, oh so and so?" So he said, "No, but Allah will come to Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and I will definitely inform him." So he came to Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and said, "Oh Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we are the people of camels and we work during the day. And indeed, Muaz, he recites with you Isha. Then he comes, then he starts Surah Baqarah with us." So Rasulullah advanced upon Muaz and he said, "Oh Muaz, are you causing fitna? Recite, recite والشمس وضحاها and والليل إذا يغشى نسبح اسم ربك الأعلى." And the other riwayat also said, after سبح اسم رب الأعلى, they also go there, إذا السماء انفطرت and إذا السماء انشقت and Suratul Buruj and Suratul Tariq. Right. Nevertheless, from this hadith, the Shawafi Azara, they say that a person leading a nafil salah, reading a nafil, can lead a person reading a faras. And the reason, and they give this hadith as dalil. Like first, he read by Nabi Akrim Sam, and it is quite obvious that he would have read his faras salah day. Then when he came here to lead his people, he would be making nafil. The Ahnaf, they, in reply to this, they say, because according to them, a person making nafil can't lead a person making faras. Because a person making nafil, his salah is weaker than the person making faras, right? So they say here that this, it depends on the intention. So here, obviously, a person who's making intention, nobody will know what's his intention unless he informs. So it is most probable that Hazrat Muaz radiallahu anhu would make intention of nafil behind Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You understand? So that he will get the barakat of reading behind Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he won't be caught, and he will save himself from being a munafiq. So he would now read nafil behind Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he would come and read for us what his people, right? What this hadith shows us is that the imam should consider the weak and the old in the jamaat, and therefore he should make the salah easy, just sticking to the sunnat salah kirat. وعن البراء رضي الله عنه قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في العشاء والتين والزيتون وما سمعت أحدا أحسن صوتا منه متفق عليه. Nazeem was a Bara Rajul said that Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam reciting in Isha والتين والزيتون, and I did not hear anyone having a better voice than him. Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, just as his body was beautiful, likewise he had an excellent voice and a beautiful voice also. And this was also obviously this was what attracted Sahaba Ikram also to him. And then Zabara bin Azib radiallahu anhu is not just saying here because of his natural or trying to push up and to like somebody, if you like somebody, then you praise him more than what is due. He's not doing that here. Rather, he's speaking hakikat and reality that Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's voice was most beautiful. من جابر بن سمرة رضي الله عنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في الفجر بقاف والقرآن المجيد ونحوها وكانت صلاته بعد تخفيفا آه رواه Muslim. Narrated from Hazrat Jabir ibn Samurah said Nabi Akram reciting the Fajr, Qaf wal Quran al Majid and the likes. And his salat after that was lighter. In other words, the Zohar, Asr, Maghrib, Isha was lighter than the Fajr. In other words, it never used to be as long as the Fajr. One Amr ibn Hurayth radiallahu anhu قال أنه سمع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في الفجر والليل إذا عسعس رواه Muslim. Narrated from Abu ibn Hurayth, he said he heard Nabi Akram sallam reciting in Fajr والليل إذا عسعس, right? And والليل إذا عسعس, that is Surah إذا الشمس كورت, right? Surah إذا الشمس سورة إذا الشمس كورت. وعن عبد الله بن سائب قال صلى لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الصبح بمكة فاستفتح سورة المؤمنين حتى جاء ذكر موسى وهارون أو ذكر عيسى أخذت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم سعلة فركع رواه مسلم. Narrated from Abdullah ibn Sabi said Nabi Akrim recited with us Fajr in Makkah. Then he started Surah Al-Mu'minun until he came to the mentioning of Musa and Harun or the mentioning of Isa. Then a coughing overtook him and then he made ruku. All right. So what is the ayatin? Thumma arsalna Musa wa akhahu Haruna. Right. That's where it is. Oh, and then Isa وَجَعَلْنَا ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ وَأُمَّهُ آيَةً وَآوَيْنَاهُمَا. You understand? So these are the two ayats he was saying there. He either reached this portion or that portion, and that's when the coughing overtook him, and then he made ruku. We also understand that it mentioned that if you get stuck in your kirat, and then if you've done the faraz kirat already, then go into ruku. Don't wait for people to correct you because then it causes confusion. Right. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في الفجر يوم الجمعة بألف لام ميم تنزيل في الركعة الأولى وفي الثانية هل أتى على الإنسان متفق عليه. Then Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه said the Nabi Karim sallallahu used to recite in the Fajr on the day of Jummah with Alif Lam Mim Sajda, right? And in the second rakat هل أتى على الإنسان. The Shawafi, they say because of the Sanawit, therefore it is Sunnah to read on the Fajr of Jummah. You understand? You should read these two surahs. Hanafiya, they say that to specify any surah to a particular salah in such a way that nothing else is recited, then it can come to karahat. You understand? So they say yes, you can recite these here with the intention of following this hadith. There's no harm in that. But now and then also change it. Now and then you have to change it. So you can read it almost every Friday, but now and then you can change it. And Ahnaf say also that the Nabi Karim never used to recite this every Friday. You understand? Therefore, to read it now and then, that's all. Then it's best, right? One Ubaidillah ibn. Let's see. وعن عبيد الله بن أبي رافع قال استخلف مروان أبا هريرة على المدينة وخرج إلى مكة فصلى لنا أبو هريرة الجمعة فقرأ سورة الجمعة في السجدة الأولى وفي الآخرة إذا جاءك المنافقون فقال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ بهما يوم الجمعة رواه مسلم. Ubaidillah bin Abi Rafi said that Marwan appointed Abu Huraira upon Medina, and he came out and he went out to Makkah. So Abu Huraira recited Salah for us on the day of Jummah. So he recited Suratul Jummah in the first rakat, and in the second, إِذَا جَاءَكَ الْمُنَافِقُونَ. Right? And he said, Nabi Akram reciting them on the day of Jummah. So the two rakats of Jummah, Suratul Jummah and Suratul Munafiqun. وعن النعمان بن بشير قال كان رسول الله يقرأ في العيدين وفي الجمعة بسبح اسم ربك الأعلى وهل أتاك حديث الغاشية قال وإذا اجتمع العيد والجمعة في يوم واحد ترى بهما في الصلاتين رواه مسلم. Therefore, Nu'man ibn Bashir said Nabi Akram to recite on the two Eids and in Jummah, but Sabbih Isma Rabbika al-A'la and Hal Ataka Hadithul Ghashiyah. And he said when Eid and Jummah had gathered on one day, then he would recite them two in both salah. In both salah. So this hadith also shows that that is the sunnat kirat for Jummah and Eid. However, like we say now and then, you recite something the front also, leave it alone.